Hello, and welcome to Neotopia, the podcast, a new place to learn about theology. I'm your host and teacher, Jillian Mason Shannon. I am the owner of Neotopia Books, an online bookstore that sells a carefully curated selection of books in the realm of theology, philosophy, and culture. And we also hold classes and panels and other events meant to bridge the unnecessary divide between religion and culture. I'm also a teacher at the University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio, where I teach Intro to Religious Studies. And this 10-episode podcast is meant to be a condensed version of that class so that it may be accessible and free to all, whether or not you have the access or the calling to go to higher education. The first episode here will be an overview of where we are in history and why a reconstruction of religion and spirituality matters to us today. The philosopher and psychiatrist Karl Jaspers coined a term known as axial periods. And an axial period is a time in human history in which everyone universally kind of turned on its axis in consciousness and entered into a new level of consciousness. So the first axial period happened between 800 and 200 BCE, a long time ago. And it was interesting because all these various thinkers started popping up all around different parts of the world. And they were kind of helping usher in this new level of consciousness without even communicating with one another. You had Buddha in India, Confucius in China, Zoroaster in Persia, Plato, Pythagoras, Socrates in Greece, and then in Israel you had the Israeli prophets, eventually leading to Jesus of Nazareth. And what they did was they turned what was the pre-axial consciousness, which was tribal and ritualistic and mythic. We represented ourselves, identified ourselves according to our tribe. That's how we saw ourselves. And we were very connected with nature, and our tribe or our nation was our identity. And then with these great thinkers in the first axial period, we became, for the first time, self-reflective individuals. We understood ourselves as independent individuals, separate from each person next to us. And we saw ourselves as self-reflective and self-transcendent, concerned with our personal relationship to God and our personal salvation, whatever that meant to different people. Now, just now, we are in the second axial period. And it is a shift from this individual consciousness to a global consciousness. So we went from tribal consciousness to individual consciousness to now global consciousness. And what brought on this second axial period? The internet and technology. Now we are no longer content with just being introspective and self-reflective. We're in desperate need of connectedness and relatedness with one another. Now, we've always been a reflective peoples. Cosmologists suggest that that's what sets us apart from animals. Just this 1% difference between us and animals is actually a huge difference, because animals are naturally instinctive and reflexive, and we're freed from our reflexes and able to be reflective. And that small difference opens up the possibility for us to be empathetic creatures and compassionate. So now we not only love those that are natural for us to love, our family, our loved ones, we're actually able to love our enemies. And that's wildly different and unique. Now, in pre-axial times, we were very connected to the natural world. We read the stars and we understood ourselves as being aligned with the cycles of nature. And that changed, unfortunately, with the first axial period. We became very disconnected from the natural world. Now, with the global consciousness and our current climate crisis, we are being forced back into awareness of our connection with nature. And also our connection with other humans. And this is offering us relationship with one another. The Bible is often called the living word. And the goal of reading the Bible is to understand it as, despite the fact that it was written so long ago in a different context, everything was really, really different and semi-irrelevant from what we're going through right now. It's still meant to speak to us in our situationship today, in our situations today. So we're meant to see ourselves in the human experiences on the page. I'm going to offer now an illustration that my seminary professor, Dr. Roy Heller, gave us, and just adapt it a little bit. If you've ever been to New York City and ridden the subway, you're aware that you're riding the subway, it's kind of a black tunnel, and you can look out the window, but you just see your own reflection. But in the outer boroughs, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, you are above ground rather than underground. And you're riding along and you can look out the window because you don't want to look at the people in front of you. You kind of would rather just not make eye contact at all costs and just do your own thing. So maybe you're looking out the window and you're seeing people and their stories that are at a safe, non-intimate distance from you. And you see perhaps a couple fighting on the street corner, or a few people selling mango with tahini on the sidewalk, or a woman carrying a ton of grocery bags up her stoop, and I don't know, a group of junior high kids obnoxiously running down the street chasing each other, whatever. You're watching these people and you kind of get lost in their stories. And then what happens as you're headed into the city is the subway goes underground. And that window that you were looking out on suddenly becomes a mirror, and you see yourself. So you're looking at these people from a safe distance that their stories don't really matter for your life, and suddenly you see your own reflection in them. And that window becomes a mirror. The window becomes a mirror. That is the point of reading the Bible, reading scripture. These stories that are so irrelevant, you're just reading from a safe distance. They have nothing to do with you. And then all of a sudden you have a moment where you see yourself in their stories. You can read the Bible every single day and check it off your to-do list and never have that moment. Or you can read it once and have that moment. And that is really the point of it, is to transform you. Not to use it, not to memorize lines that work for you, not to use it to your own benefit, but to allow it to change you. And that is what we call unitive thinking. It's unitive thought as opposed to dualistic thought, which is where we live most of our days. Dualistic thought is me versus you. It's I think. It is win versus lose. It's right versus wrong. And we live our lives trying to pick a side. Which side am I on? What's in it for me? That's dualistic thought, and it is not sustainable. It is not going to help us evolve. Unitive thought transforms that. It takes me versus you, and it says myself in you. Now I see myself in you. As Simone Weil says, what we need right now, she was speaking in the 1940s, but it applies today even more. What we need is not a political revolution, but a spiritual revolution. As more and more people are turning away from religion, for good reason, in order to have such a revolution, we need to first deconstruct our preconditioned notions about God, about the Bible, about various concepts of religion that may be held captive by fundamentalist mainstream thought, and reconstruct it in a way that transforms the way we see the world and hopefully creates human flourishing. So stay tuned for the next episodes in which we attempt to do just that.